Hi everyone, Neko here with another recap. Today's show is called Love and Lies, where teenagers have to hide their love from the government which forces marriage based on an algorithm. I hope you enjoy it. In an alternate universe of Japan, the declining rate causes the government to create an official matchmaking system. Through a sophisticated algorithm to determine the most suitable partner for each person, the government assigns a spouse to each citizen that turns 16 years old. In addition, the government enforces strict penalties if people have relationships outside of their designated partner. In this dystopian world is Yukari Nejima, a student who has a crush on his popular classmate Misaki Takasaki. Yukari has been in love with Misaki for years, but this love becomes jeopardized as Yukari will turn 16 soon. Yukari has friends who are also unhappy with the situation, and Yukari joins a pact to promise that he will not just accept the government's demands and be forced to marry. That night Yukari heads home and he has flashbacks to when he was younger and when he first fell in love with Misaki. When he was little, Yukari helped him by giving him half of her eraser, which led to his crush on her. Meanwhile, Yukari's mother is excited that it will be his birthday soon, and the government will notify him about his marriage partner. A disturbed Yukari just wants to be with Misaki, so he decides to confess to Misaki before his birthday. But the next morning when he approaches Misaki to confess his feelings, he discovers that she doesn't really know him, and Yukari realizes that his treasured memory with Misaki was not a meaningful interaction for her. He still manages to ask her to meet him after school. A depressed Yukari thinks that Misaki will not show up after school, and as time goes by she doesn't show up. Yukari tries to stay at the park after school for many hours, and soon it is already night. Luckily, before Yukari was about to leave, Misaki shows up and apologizes for being late. She also apologizes for lying at school as she actually does remember him. They sit with each other where Yukari is able to fully confess his feelings, and to his surprise Misaki begins to cry as she confesses that she has liked him all this time as well. The two share a tender kiss full of happiness. Soon the clock strikes midnight, and Yukari receives the notification from the government because he has turned 16. Surprisingly, Yukari sees that Misaki is his new partner, but before he can show her, his phone glitches out. Meanwhile, government officials Hajime and Kogetsu arrive to hand Yukari his official papers, and Yukari sees that his assigned wife is not Misaki, but a girl named Ririna Sanada. An upset Misaki then runs away, and Yukari chases after her. Eventually the two hug and Yukari promises her that he will always love her. The next day Yukari and his family must visit Yukari's new wife Ririna and her family. A nervous Yukari is shocked to see that Ririna is very beautiful, and the two of them introduce themselves to each other. But although Ririna introduces herself, Yukari can only think about Misaki, so he unintentionally offends Ririna by not showing him enough interest in her. Ririna angrily calls him rude for not even pretending to be interested in their future marriage, and she leaves the room. Yukari goes out looking for Ririna and finds her alone in a room. Although Yukari apologizes for his behavior, Ririna tells him that she is basically completely done with their marriage. Though when Yukari explains his love for Misaki and his complicated situation, Ririna begins to be curious and interested about their forbidden romance. After hearing more about Misaki, Ririna decides to accept his apology, and she surprisingly decides to help him get together with Misaki. They come up with a plan to trick their family and the government that they like each other, and they walk back to their parents while pretending to be close. The next day Yukari is in class and his classmates are impressed with his pretty wife Ririna. Since Ririna goes to an all-girls school nearby, Yukari goes to look for her but can't find her at the school. He asks her classmates and they also don't know who she is. Eventually he finds her in the nurse's office, and Ririna explains that she is actually hiding from the other students by pretending to be sick because she doesn't really fit in with the other girls. This is because when she first started school, Ririna was very sick and missed the time where all the students made their friendships. The two bond over their mutual awkwardness, and Ririna is very interested in hearing more about Misaki. Suddenly Yukari sees Misaki walking past, so he points out his crush to Ririna, and Ririna immediately introduces herself to Misaki and invites Misaki to a restaurant to talk about Yukari. At the restaurant, Ririna explains that she doesn't have feelings for Yukari, and that Yukari told her about their situation. Misaki confirms that she has feelings for Yukari, and Ririna promises to help support them. After they leave, Ririna ends up crying because she has made her first ever friend with Misaki. Later, Ririna invites both Yukari and Misaki to hang out together with her, but the two teenagers find the situation very awkward. Misaki relaxes a bit after she talks with Ririna, but since Ririna heard that Yukari and Misaki had previously had their first kiss, Ririna makes them uncomfortable by wondering if they could kiss again. At first Misaki starts to refuse, but then she decides to go for the kiss because she is worried about her future with Yukari. The couple lean in to kiss, but at the last minute Yukari pulls away out of embarrassment. Meanwhile, Misaki notices that Ririna has a blush on her face. Later, when they are alone, Misaki has a serious talk with Ririna and wonders if maybe she might not be the right person for Yukari after all, and that Ririna and Yukari might end up having feelings for each other eventually. This shocks Ririna, because Misaki is in love with Yukari, and Ririna orders Yukari to do better with his relationship with Misaki. Later that night, Yukari runs into his friend Yusuke, who is known as a bit of a playboy at school. He observes Ririna and Yukari interact with each other and wonders if there might be budding feelings between the two of them. The next day after he is ordered by Ririna, Yukari approaches Misaki and explains that Ririna wants them to kiss every day. The two of them sneak an unexpected kiss, but they are spotted by a passing Yusuke. Later, Yusuke sends a text asking Yukari to meet him, and Yukari stays after class. Yukari wonders what the consequences will be if he is caught with Misaki now that he has broken the government orders, and while he is thinking, he falls asleep in the classroom. Yusuke finds him asleep and ends up kissing him. Yukari wakes up not realizing he was kissed, and asks Yusuke if he has feelings for Misaki, which Yusuke denies. The next day, Ririna goes to Yukari's house to visit him and his family. Yukari's parents tease the young couple, which embarrass the two of them because they need to pretend to be in love. Later, Ririna discovers that Yukari's room is a complete mess, so she decides to clean his room, and after cleaning his room, she finds his school photos. The officials Hajime and Kogetsu arrive to explain to the couple more about the algorithm, and state that the process to pick the perfect partner starts at a young age and uses many variables. But surprisingly, looks and beauty are not important for the matching, as the government found matching people based on personality yielded more successful matches. Yukari is still uncertain about his feelings, but he knows he loves Misaki, so he asks them about her match. But the officials tell him that who she is matched with is personal information and must be kept private. After they leave, Yukari spirals into a depression, thinking that another guy will take Misaki away. But Ririna calms him down and tells him to keep trying. When he walks her home that night, Yukari informs Ririna that he won't be kissing Misaki every day anymore just because she asked, and the two wonder why they live in a world that is so complicated. The next day, Yukari is worried about Misuki's unknown marriage partner. After he sees her speaking with Yusuke, he asks her if she has been notified by the government, but she reveals that she hasn't been matched yet. She also tells him not to worry because she only loves him, and the two kiss. Later, Yukari's mother organizes a vacation for the couple, and Ririna invites Misaki while Yukari persuades Yusuke to come along as well. When they meet up at the train station, Ririna is surprised to see Yusuke before they board the train. Sitting together, Yukari tries to ask Yusuke what he was speaking to Misaki about earlier, but he refuses to answer, and a sad Yukari wonders if Yusuke has feelings for Misaki. At the camp, the boys are assigned to cook dinner, and Yukari discovers Yusuke is horrible at cooking. Yukari then goes to find the girls and finds them playing at a nearby pool. They try to persuade him to join them, but an embarrassed Yukari refuses. Suddenly, Ririna slips and hurts her ankle, so Yukari has to carry her back to camp. Later that night, Yukari confronts Yusuke again because he feels like the other boy is hiding something, and Yusuke becomes worried because he thinks that Yukari might know that he secretly kissed him the other day. They then join the girls on a walk in the woods where Ririna forces Misaki and Yukari to go into the forest together while she goes with Yusuke. While on their walk, Yusuke wonders why Ririna is trying to force Misaki and Yukari together, and that their scheme might be dangerous because the government will punish them. They eventually find Yukari and Misaki, who fell down into a pit chasing fireflies. After helping the couple, the four of them find a hidden forest with lots of fireflies, and they all hold hands. The next day they return home, and Yusuke thanks Yukari for inviting him. One day, Ririna has a dream about kissing Yukari, which shocks her. Since she doesn't have much experience, she goes to the library to find research about kissing. There she meets a girl who asks her to be her friend, and was the daughter of the doctor who took care of Ririna. Meanwhile at school, Yukari notices that Misaki seems to be avoiding him now. He is later told to report to the government for a special class, and there he spots his middle school classmate Shu as well. After introducing everyone to each other, the ministry class starts, where government official Kogetsu teaches an impromptu sex ed class and passes out condoms. The government then shows a video to the class, which starts to give Ririna fantasies about Yukari. Meanwhile, the other official Hajime tells Yukari that he will be keeping a close eye on the boy, and speaks cryptic words about love to him. After the video, Kogetsu announces that all the couples will spend the night with each other in a hotel. At the hotel, Ririna and Yukari are awkward at first, until Yukari goes in for a kiss, but he stops after seeing her in tears. Ririna asks him why he kissed her, and Yukari explains that Hajime warned him that the government was watching and he was worried about disobeying the government. But she scolds him because the government can't spy on couples in the bedroom because it is illegal, and Yukari apologizes for his actions. Ririna then asks that they spend some time apart. The next day, Yukari finds that his school is holding a play. The play is Romeo and Juliet, with the genders swapped, with Misaki as Romeo and Yusuke as Juliet. Yusuke was not happy but was forced by his teacher, who threatened to fail him if he did not join the play. While helping with the play, Yukari gets injured and gets sent to the nurse's office. A worried Misaki goes to see if he is alright, and apologizes for avoiding him. She explains that avoided him because the situation doesn't feel fair to Ririna. Before leaving, Yukari tells her that Ririna is avoiding him because he hurt her feelings. Misaki decides to meet with Ririna after school to comfort her. Meanwhile, Yukari runs into Hajime outside and asks the government official for advice. Hajime warns him about a case where a boy was indecisive about his love, and in the process lost both his partner and the girl he had a relationship with before he was assigned by the government. Hajime tells him to follow his heart, and an uncertain Yukari decides he needs to make up with Ririna. As the festival approaches, the class school is finishing the decorations for the play and are excited, but Yukari sees an unhappy Yusuke leaving. He runs to Yusuke too and finds that his friend wants to quit the play. Yukari tries to convince Yusuke to stay in the play, but Yusuke refuses. Suddenly, Yusuke's father arrives and invites Yukari and Yusuke to join him at a restaurant. At the restaurant, Yusuke's father is surprised to hear that Yusuke is very popular at school, and Yukari defends his friend's character. After Yusuke gets up from the table, his father asks Yukari to take care of Yusuke because he is not like the other students at school. Later that night, Yukari and Yusuke are walking back home, and Yukari tries to convince him to continue with the play. Yusuke feels that the play is stupid, but Yukari feels that the story of Romeo and Juliet is very relevant to their life today, as it is about two people who are not allowed to love each other due to the society around them. Yukari feels that many teenagers today are faced with a similar situation, and he hopes that Yusuke can do the play to help comfort the other students. Yusuke sees that Yukari is very passionate about this, so he decides to continue with the play. The next day, Yukari runs into Misaki, who also reveals that she wasn't very enthusiastic about the play. However, since Yusuke is now determined to do the play and she doesn't want to let down her classmates, Misaki is going to try her best. She also reveals to Yukari that the play had a kissing scene, but both she and Yusuke refuse to do the scene. Misaki asks Yukari if he has fallen in love with Ririna yet, but he tells her that he only loves her. The two talk about what it means to be in love, and Misaki reveals that she was previously happy with her love for Yukari. Misaki tells him that she had feelings for him since she was little and was happy to be assigned to his class, and that she could see him in school. Since she knew that when they turned 16 they would get marriage partners, she wanted to keep her feelings hidden so they would be spared the heartache. But when they confessed to each other the night before his birthday, she could not contain her feelings. Misaki hugs Yukari and tells him that their feelings today will cause them heartache in the future, but she is happy to be in love with him. Soon the festival and the day of the play arrives. While passing out flyers for the play, Yukari runs into Hajime, who is monitoring the couples at the school. Yukari asks Hajime about the text message glitch the day he turned 16, where he briefly saw Misuki's name. But Hajime tells him that the true partner for him would have been on the official documents, and the text message might have been faked by somebody. Yukari then runs into Ririna, but the encounter is awkward and he is forced to leave wondering if she is still angry at him. While he is alone, Yusuke passes by and Yukari wonders to his friends if Ririna hates him, but Yusuke tells him that if she really wanted to avoid Yukari, Ririna would not have come to the school festival. The class puts on the play with Misaki and Yusuke impressing the audience with their acting and determination. After the play, Yukari sees Shu, who was also Misuki's friend in middle school. She reveals she knows about the text message he received with Misuki's name, and tells him that Misuki is actually Yukari's true love, and he should have been matched with Misaki, not Ririna. A nearby Ririna overhears this and asks Shu what she knows, but Shu refuses to answer other than saying she is keeping Misuki's secrets. After Shu leaves, Yukari tells Ririna about the text message and they decide to work together to find out the truth. Ririna is worried that their match might be a mistake and they go to find Misuki, but they find Misuki because she is surrounded by her fans from the play. Yusuke's family is also there, and his father asks Yukari if he would like to go to a wedding with them. The next day, Ririna is at school when other students start to talk with her, and she is told that she looks happier, and is therefore more approachable. She meets with Yukari later that day, who reveals that he tried to send a friend request to Shu but was ignored. Surprisingly, Shu accepts Ririna's friend request, and agrees to meet them the next day. At their meeting, Shu takes them to a cat cafe, and after playing with the cats, Shu explains that she used to dislike Misuki until she saw her trying to get photos of Yukari at school. Shu realized then that Misuki's love for Yukari is what defined her. Shu also explains that the matching algorithm the government uses was created by her family, and that her family always said that the matching algorithm was perfect. Suddenly, Hajime arrives and scolds Shu for interfering, but Shu doesn't care because she doesn't think Yukari will choose Misuki in the end anyway. That night, Ririna asks if he will choose Misuki, but Yukari tells her he doesn't know who to pick. The next day, the two of them with Misuki and Yusuke head to Yusuke's brother's wedding. Yukari wonders why Yusuke is not already with his family, but Yusuke reveals that some of his family doesn't agree with his lifestyle choices and doesn't elaborate. At the wedding, they are approached by a woman who asks, if the two girls could model wedding dresses for a promotional event in the future. At the wedding, Yukari watches a video of the bride and groom's memories together, and he wonders about his own history with Misaki. Meanwhile, Misaki tells Ririna that she hopes to be invited to the other girl's wedding someday. Later during the bouquet toss, Yukari sees that Misaki is missing, so he goes to find her, and finds Misaki crying in a room. She asks him to tell her he loves her, and the two end up kissing. Unfortunately, they are seen by Ririna, who runs away. The next day, Yukari feels conflicted about his feelings, and even though he recently kissed Misaki, he feels their relationship has weakened. Meanwhile, Yukari and Ririna's families take them to a private hot spring for a vacation. Ririna worries about the kiss she saw between Misaki and Yukari, but keeps her thoughts to herself. The families give the two of them a room together, and Yukari promises not to do anything. They then go to the hot springs and talk to each other through the wall, where Ririna asks Yukari if he feels like Misaki is his destined partner, but Yukari says he isn't sure. Later that night, Ririna wakes up Yukari and tells him that he should pick Misaki. Ririna says that since Yukari and Misaki have entered her life, Ririna's life has greatly improved because she now has friends and has grown as a person. She doesn't know if Misaki and Yukari are fated to be with one another, but she doesn't want to ruin that chance. She also found in her research at the library a way to get out of the assigned marriage. If the two of them pretend to dislike each other for 6 months, they will be forced into counseling by the government, and given enough time they could end the marriage. Yukari starts to cry because he doesn't want to pretend to hate her, but Ririna promises that it will be worth it, and that they will always be friends. The two of them kiss at Ririna's request, which further complicates Yukari's feelings. The next day, Yusuke arrives at Yukari's house to thank him for coming to the wedding. Yukari tells his friend he is conflicted between the two girls and just wants them to be happy. Yusuke tells him that he just needs to listen to his true feelings and go to see them at the same time. Inspired by Yusuke's words, Yukari runs out of the house to go find Misaki and Ririna, who are at the wedding hall trying on bridal dresses. Yukari tells both of them he loves them and that no matter what the government says, he wants all of them to be together. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.